Blaze with Blaze Handcrafted Woodworks again. I haven't made a video in a little bit because I've been busy doing other things and I don't want to make duplicate videos of how to make doors. Last week I was making a bunch of doors. But I have a pile of Cypress over there, and somebody suggested that I do something a little bit easier than cabinetry that anyone could do in their garage. I'm still going to use my cabinet shop to do it, obviously, but I'm going to show you how to make a swing. So let's go. So before I built my cabinet shop, before I moved here, I was making lots of tables and benches and the tables that fold out into benches and that kind of stuff in my garage at my house. So I already had these two patterns. So one of them is for your bottom and one of them is for the backrest. So these are my patterns that I'm going to trace out, and then I'll cut everything up and we'll show you how it all comes together. I almost forgot to show, there's two more patterns. This is for the little upright that the armrest goes on. It'll all make sense hopefully later. And here's the pattern for the armrest itself. So all I'm doing right now is I'm tracing out the bottom parts and the back parts. Okay, now that I've got all the pieces traced out, I'm gonna start off at my miter saw to cut all these angles, straight angles. And then I'm gonna go to the band saw and I'm gonna cut out all my curved cuts. And then I'll use my sander to get everything real nice and smooth and to my lines that I just traced. Okay, so what I'm about to do is I'm about to rough cut all of this. Make sure when you do that you leave your line. That way you can sand exactly to your line and it'll be perfect. If you cut your line off, you have no reference point. You don't know where to stop. I'm not gonna bore you by cutting all that out and making you watch all of that, but I'm gonna do the same thing for each piece. I'm stopping the time lapse right there because some of these just make more sense to go cut them on the miter saw because it's a long piece of wood. So it's kind of a mixture of what I can cut straight on the miter saw as opposed to the curve. So I'll kind of be back and forth between my miter saw and my bandsaw until I get all these pieces cut out. Should only take a few minutes. I just wanted to show this real quick. So any long straight cuts like this, if you can see that pencil mark, it would be pointless to sand to that line when I got a tool right here called a table saw that can cut a straight line. So all I'm gonna do is measure this distance, which is 3 5/16. I'm gonna set my fence on my table saw to that, and I'm gonna get that straight line out of that way. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I just cut it. So now that's a perfectly straight line. I still have to round off these corners, but that's gonna be simple on my edge sander. Okay, so the same principle I just showed you on the table saw applies to any of these angled cuts. Any straight cut, it makes more sense to either use my radial arm saw or to use a table saw for the straight cuts. Angled cuts, straight cuts. So I figure out what my angle is, which in this case, it's about 13.5 degrees. I have a nice little cursor that goes down so you can see your line. So I know that's it right there. So I'm gonna lock down my miter saw so that that angle doesn't move. Now, it can't move. I'm shaking it side to side if you can't see what I'm doing, but it won't move from that position. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut all them angles so that's all perfectly straight. And then all I'll have to do is sand to my line and then just assemble it. So this is what I meant when I said you gotta make sure you leave your line. If you cut your line, then you really don't know how far you're sanding. If you leave your line, I can sand to this line and every time it'll come out to the perfect shape. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on time lapse because I'm sure you guys don't wanna see me sand about 14 pieces. Okay, so here's all my parts beside the slats that you're actually gonna sit on. There's 5 bottom pieces, 5 back pieces, 2 pieces that hold up the armrest and 2 armrests. I'm gonna put it together with staples tonight just so I can wrap this up and go home. But I will come back and put screws, outdoor screws in it, probably sometime tomorrow. That's the important part. Even though I'm putting screws in here tomorrow, you always want to put glue anytime you put 2 pieces of wood together because the glue joint is really, really strong. A lot of times, if you bust a board apart with a hammer where it's been glued together, it'll bust apart anywhere except for where it was glued together. So essentially the glue joint becomes harder than the wood itself. Okay, I'm making a 5-foot swing, so I make 5 of these braces that the slats are gonna sit on. So the only thing to really note here is you wanna have 1 left and 1 right. What I mean by that is for a 5-foot swing, you want one side where the part you sit on is on the outside of the back part. And you also want to have the opposite. You want to have one that's going to be the right-hand side of the swing if you're looking at it, where it's on the outside of the upright part. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one of these slats that I cut to 60 inches, because again, I'm making a 5-foot swing and 5 foot is 60 inches. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put one in the back to get my spacing. And then I'm gonna put the first one at the very bottom where your knees would hit. And I'm gonna space those since I'm putting... I was just videoing that and I legit just broke the bit that's inside. It's no big deal. On this thing, if you can see right there, there's a little spot for an Allen wrench. So all I gotta do is loosen that screw, the old bit will fall out, and I can put the appropriate size bit, which I think is an 1/8 inch bit. But anyway, that's pretty wild. Especially because Cypress is super soft. I guess it was just its time. Rest in peace, buddy. So this is what the countersinking bit did before it broke, before it died. These are the screws that I use, exterior screws. So I'm gonna go ahead and drive one in here just to show you that it's countersunk. I'm not doing all of that today because it's already way past my time that I should have went home. But I just wanted to finish this video. So there you go. That's what it's going to be like when I'm finished with all of them. They'll all be countersunk, so no screws can back out and rip your pants or make you feel uncomfortable or anything crazy like that. Okay, so here's how I arrived at my spacing. I'm going to have 4 spaces. So I just divided 60 by 4 and I got 15. So, you know, I'm not lying. I put a mark at 15, I put a mark at 30, I put a mark at 45, and then there's the marks at the end. Okay, and this might be kind of important. I don't think it really matters as long as you do the front and the back the same. But where I made my marks is where I put the part that your buttocks will be sitting on. So you can see that I lined that up with my mark on all of them. I hope you can see. So that way, as long as I do the same thing on the front, then I guess it really doesn't matter. I could have centered the back part, this, on that line instead. As long as you do the same in the front and the back, your spacing will stay the same, if that makes sense. But I chose to line it up evenly with the part that your butt will be sitting on. Okay, so for the rest of these, the part that you're actually gonna either be sitting on or leaning back up against, I'm gonna bevel or chamfer the edges so that they look like, I had a scrap, I don't know what I did with it. Anyway, I'll just show you after I do it and I'll tell you what to set your fence at. I'm doing it on my table saw. I could very well put a chamfering bit on one of my routers and do it, but it's just, I think this is a little bit quicker for me. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it's quicker the other way. I don't know. This is just how I chose to do it today. That's the mood I'm in. Oh, and here, just to show that I have it on a 45, my blade. If you look at it, that's a 45-degree angle. Probably doesn't, I mean, I know it definitely doesn't even have to be a 45, but you might as well keep things consistent. So this is what I meant by chamfering or beveling the edges. So what I did is I moved my fence over from 1 3/4, that's the width of these, that's what I ripped them to. I moved my fence to 1 1/2, and that's given me enough of a bevel for me. Actually, I might move it to 1 3/8. I think I want a little bit more of a bevel. Okay, so just like the back part that I started with, I put a mark every 15 inches. So as long as I center this with that mark of every 15 inches, the front and the back will be perfectly lined up. So my spacing will be correct, and when it's put together, it looks hopefully great. Don't forget to put your glue where all your 15-inch marks are. It's very important. I forgot to show what the bevel looks like if I move my fence to 1 3/8 instead of 1 1/2. But basically it's that. So this right here, oops, is just a piece of 5/8 inch scrap that I had that I'm using to space out in between each one of these pieces. So again, it's a piece of 5/8. I'm sure you could use 3/4 or whatever. You just want to make sure that the back one falls out in an appropriate place. My compressor's running in the back, so I got to talk a little bit louder. But if you noticed, I put all of my staples. I didn't put them on the flat part because tomorrow or whenever I have time, I'm going to come back and put screws just because I think it's more appropriate. Since it's going to be outside, I want to use an exterior screw. In my excitement to get out of here, I forgot to show myself putting these on. They have to get screwed on. I just tacked them in place so that I can go home because it's almost 7 p.m. and I want to go home. But there's the swing. Not very difficult to make. If you have any questions, let me know. So just a little recap. These are all the patterns that I used to trace and to make this swing. I may be interested in cutting out a bunch of sets and sending them off for, I don't know, 20, 25 bucks, something like that. If anyone's interested, let me know and I'll cut you some out. See where you live, what shipping will cost and that good stuff, and we can go from there. Thanks for watching. Bye.